Hey Owen, my name's Joseph, and I am a subscriber on your YouTube channel, and I have a question for you. I am a ex-Mormon, and I was wondering if Jehovah's Witnesses are similar to the Mormon religion. Like, I heard different theories about it. Like, yes, they are the same. So one doesn't celebrate holidays or anything like that. And if you can answer that question, I'd be very grateful. You have a good day, all right? Bye-bye.
Appreciate that. Very interesting question. Actually, I love talking about the history of religion. So, the Mormon church started in the 1820s, I believe. That's when Joseph Smith supposedly found these gold plates. He was led to them by an angel, Moroni. He led him to these gold plates, supposedly, and there were these two rocks inside of this enclosure that held the gold plates, and he'd put the rocks up to his eyes, supposedly. This is how it was described. And he would look at the gold plates, and he'd be able to read this foreign language that he didn't know by looking at the plates through these rocks. That's how it started out. As time went on, 1820s, 1830s, he was dictating the Book of Mormon to people, and the story of how he read the gold plates or how he dictated the book changes from time to time. It started out as that, with the rocks and you look at the plates, and then it changed to he would throw the rock in a hat and put the hat up to his face, and the rock was telling him, like showing him what he wanted this guy to write down for the Book of Mormon. And then it moved to he didn't need the gold plates at all. He was just sitting on the other side of a table and telling the guy what they said, or some other nonsense. It gets really, really weird. So as time went on, through the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, Joseph Smith was building up Mormonism, and at the same time, in the 1830s and 40s, oh, hey, Kitty. Kitty wants to come chill with us while I do the podcast. Okay, come on, sit down. At the same time, the Millerite movement was rising up, and the Millerite movement that they believed that they had this Bible math that calculated that the end was going to come in 1843, I believe. They waited, and nothing happened. And then they recalculated, and they said, look, there's no year zero. So it was not, our math was right. We just forgot that it just went from 1 BCE to 1 CE and skipped the year zero. So it was actually 1844 is when this big thing was supposed to happen, not 1843. And guess what? Once again, nothing happened. People sold their stuff and donated it to the church and got ready for the rapture, and nothing happened. That was the Millerite movement. So the Millerite movement and the Mormonism movement were completely separate from each other. After the Great Disappointment in 1844, when the Millerite movement made that failed prediction, the Millerite church fell apart and splintered off into a few different groups, a few different factions. The first group believed that the Bible math behind the prediction was sound, and something really did happen. Jesus just came back invisibly. We couldn't see him. The second faction believed that the Bible math was correct, but they had the date wrong. So they had some of their variables were incorrect in the math, and they just needed to recalculate, and they would get a date for the end. And the third faction believed the Bible math was nonsense, just complete nonsense, right? So two completely separate groups, two separate religious groups growing at the same time. Eventually, Jehovah's Witnesses leader and founder, Charles Taze Russell, was going to a Millerite church, one of the factions that split off. He was going to a church from the faction that believed the Bible math was sound, but they had the wrong starting date, basically. And interestingly enough, this is apocryphal, but Charles Taze Russell, the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, and the founder of Seventh-day Adventists, Ellen G. White, knew each other and went to the same Millerite church for a short time. Those two groups are very closely linked with each other. All of this was happening around the 1860s, 1870s, when they were going to the Millerite church. And in the 1870s, Charles Taze Russell was trying to build his own church, his own brand, Jehovah's Witnesses. It was actually the Bible Students at the time, is what it was called. So Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses have always been separate entities from each other, but they're very similar in a lot of ways. Interestingly enough, they don't come from the same tree like Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists do. They both came up from the Millerite movement. Mormonism did not. So I do find the commonalities between them fascinating, considering the fact that they were completely separate, even though they did start roughly around the same time period.